the obstacles that you are experiencing right now, there's something inside of them that needs to be, we call this transmuted or transformed, change. Looking for the opportunities in these obstacles to step into a more expanded version of yourself in this time period is the work that's going to get you through this time, and not just get you through this time. Like, let me not sound so doom and gloom. Part of this is happening because this is our moment to rise.
Welcome to Reward, the podcast of The Trust. We are the show specifically for women entrepreneurs who want to build businesses into the multi-million-dollar revenues and beyond, but especially because we know the reward is much greater than that. I'm Allie Brown, and I'm excited to introduce you to these diverse female leaders from a variety of industries, women making huge impact and who are unwilling to settle for the status quo. On the web, visit jointhetrust.org to learn more about our modern community for forward-thinking 7- and 8-figure women entrepreneurs. That's jointhetrust.org. See you there. Now, get ready to enjoy this episode's powerful conversation. Hi, Makhosi.
Oh my gosh. We finally did it. We're here.
We have been separated by the powers that be, and today, which is a very powerful, energetic day, supposedly. Like it's a great time, I think, for this topic, because you talk about, creating the life you want, creating what you want, manifesting what you desire, and also what's so interesting. And why I love doing these interviews is I get to know so much more about the people I'm talking with, because we don't always have time at the meetings, at the trust, and when we see each other. So I'm so excited to dive in. Why don't you tell everyone, is it even possible to describe you in a nutshell? Do you have a sentence or two that you describe yourself?
Yeah, it's funny. I've been working on that. Essentially, I'm a spiritual teacher and advisor who works to support female leaders in stepping into their highest timeline and really embodying the full capacity of who they're here to be in this life. And I do so through conversations around feminine energy, wealth, conversations, and a lot of inner work that ultimately is the goods that creates the life that we want.
So how did you become, I need to go back, because this isn't a simple how I built this story, right? I'm going to guess about, I'm going to go start a business that is centered around this. This is more of who you are. And how did you become who you are in this journey to be doing this now? I'm so curious.
Yeah. So I'll give my best, condensing a lifetime into, just a few minutes, but really my life is really a story of living multiple lives at the same time. One, which was what everyone else saw. And then the other, which was more of the truth of who I was. And I feel like a lot of female entrepreneurs can relate to this. I was very spiritual as a kid. I came into this life remembering my last one. And I always used to have interactions with and just know things, know creepy things. And that always kind of got me into trouble a little bit. But then I also had this other version of me who, because I grew up, my mom was a teen mom, and I'm mixed race in small town, Southern West Virginia. And there were just a lot of circumstances around me that led me to buy into the idea that the only way that I was really going to make it was if I became high achiever. So education was my pathway. I really leaned heavily into logic and get good grades and school, college, all the things.
You just knew you had to make it happen. You're like, this is my only way out of here. That's kind of what you thought, right?
Yeah. The only way mostly out of there was either education, sports, which I'm terrible at, or music. And that's kind of like a once in a lifetime thing, right? You're probably not going to get discovered in random West Virginia. It does happen, but we didn't have social media back then the way we do now. So anyway, I had this experience where really my spiritual gifting started coming online as a teenager. And I had a very traumatic experience where my best friend was murdered. Her life was taken by her boyfriend when I was 15 years old. And the two of us were like sisters, and I was very engaged with her family. And when that happened, she appeared at the end of my bed. And that experience really changed everything for me, because up until that point, my spiritual aspect was just kind of on the sideline. I always kind of just gaslit myself. I was like, oh, you're not seeing anything, or, oh, this is just kind of like fun and woo woo. Right. And at that moment, I realized, wait, there is something else here. There is a non-physical aspect to this life. And I went on a very spiritual journey. And part of that was catalyzed because after my friend's death, I found myself really sick, really, really sick, having very like unexplainable illnesses, in and out of doctors, and no one could figure out what was going on. Fast forward to college, and I have another experience where I finally get pregnant. So I had a lot of challenges with my fertility. And at the time I was already engaged, and my husband and I got pregnant. And this was like my very last year of school, but I was a super senior. So it was like my 6th year of college at this point. And when my son was born,
do you mind if I ask? I'm not clear. Do you mind if I ask, like, did you consciously want a child, or did this just kind of happen? It was the right time with the right man. And
oh no, in my mind, because I'm high achiever, I'm going to get my degrees. Okay. I'm going to get my career going. Yep, right. And then when I'm like 30, 35, then I'll have a baby. And I was having so many reproductive issues. And my OBGYN also had my mom as a patient, and she was his worst case endometriosis that he had ever seen. And I had endometriosis and also polycystic ovaries, and just, I was having a lot of challenges in and out of the hospital. And so he said to me at 22, hey, because I had been with my husband at this point for 3 years, we were engaged. And he said, hey, if you want to have children, you probably have a very small window.
Wow.
He said, I'd give you maybe 5 years max. If you want to, I recommend that you start. And we started trying to get pregnant. It took a year and lots of treatments. And then literally I was getting ready to be wheeled back into surgery to have like the scar tissue removed and, make it easier to get pregnant, and found out I was pregnant right before the surgery. So had this, beautiful, exciting miracle, but then I struggled to stay pregnant. I was on bed rest for 6 months of my pregnancy while still in college. At the time I was pre-med. So I was like teaching myself physics and chemistry and biology from home, and went through all of this challenge, and then had him through an emergency C-section, lots of drama and trauma. And it's so funny because they sent me home early. After you have a C-section, they're supposed to wait like 48 hours before they send you home. They sent me home the very next day. They just couldn't wait to get me out of there. And I got home, and after a day or two, I woke up in the middle of the night, and a voice said to me, get up, get dressed, go to the hospital. Very calm, but very direct. And it wasn't my voice. And I got up and I started getting dressed. And my husband, because this is like 4:00 in the morning, he turns on the light and goes, what are you doing? And I said, I don't know, but something told me to get up and get dressed and to go to the hospital, and that like something's not right. So we get to the hospital and found out that my blood pressure I should have been in a coma at that point. My blood pressure was so high, and I had developed postpartum preeclampsia and ended up spending 5 days in the hospital. So I'm having these spiritual experiences. And this one in particular was profound because I had one more semester left before I was going to go to med school and do the ultimate like high achiever thing, which is become a doctor.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And then this miracle boy comes in my life, and all I wanted to do was just be with him. I just wanted to be with him. And I couldn't imagine myself going to med school and spending, 60, 80 hours a week. And I sat and I looked and I said, I'm not going to get he's not going to know me really if I'm not around. And he's going to be like 10 before I really have any time to be with him. So I made the decision not to go to med school. I graduated, of course, and that was what it was. And then I ended up working at Target.
I did not know Target. That's not in your bio. Hold on, let me check. I didn't see that yet. Okay, were you like beep beep, or were you manager? I mean, you were a manager, right? Tell me you're a manager.
Yeah.
Okay.
So up until that point,
not to devalue anyone at Target, because you get anyone in there to help you, they're great. There's just not a lot of people in there to help you. Yeah. So I bet you were helpful and awesome, and we all love Target. Okay, sorry, that just threw me off. I'm like, wait, wait, New York Times, blah blah. Okay, no Target. Okay,
no Target. But I ended up at Target while all my friends are, off at med school, and even working at Target. I was in management, and in retail, it was probably the best that you could get. I'd worked in lots and lots of different roles, everything from management to sales to marketing, all the way up until that point. But I still felt like it wasn't enough. And at that time, I ended up going to a special kind of party, if you know what I mean.
Well, I may, but for the cheap seats in the back, or people who have not lived your kind of experiential life, Makhosi, do you want to?
Yes. I ended up at a sex toy party.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought you were going toward the plant medicine. Okay. Oh, whoop, whoop. No. All right. Okay.
That comes later.
It was a sexy party. Okay.
Yes. Only women, right?
Right.
Feminine energy, right? So I literally went to that party and I thought, oh my gosh, I can totally do this. So I get home and I tell my husband, this was on a Friday. I said, listen, I'm quitting my job. I'm going to start a pure romance business. I'm going to be selling this pleasure, fun things.
It's the network model. So you have parties and
direct sales. So it's a party model.
That would make sense for that type of product, I would think too. Yeah.
Yeah. So you go into women's homes, there's like an educational component to it, but also a lot of fun. And so that was Friday. On Monday, I put my 2 weeks notice in. Hadn't even got products yet. And boom, I'm off to the races. Well, I almost failed in my first 3 months because they tell you, oh, you got to get your friends and family to host parties for you. And I had a few people who supported me, but there was not enough of them. And I don't know. I personally feel like your friends and family aren't usually your customers. And so I had a moment where I almost failed and was going to have to go back to work. And I said, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. And so I went to a mentor and I said, listen, you tell me what to do. Whatever you tell me to do, I will do it. I don't care how uncomfortable it is. I will do anything. And she said, make you a list of 100 people that you know. You're going to connect with them. You are going to get as many no's as possible. In fact, almost all of these people are going to tell you no, but you are going to get some parties on the books. And then she showed me how to get 3 parties at every party. And literally 6 months later, I was in the top 1% of that company.
Wow.
So that was 9 months from the time I started to boom, I'm in the top of this company at 23, 24 years old. So that experience was what I feel like everybody tells you success looks like. I was getting flown out to Vegas, for free trips. I was getting the designer handbags and the mansion parties with the champagne and stages and recognition and all of the things. And even though I didn't hate what I was doing, I did not feel fully fulfilled. I was like, I'm 24. This can't be it.
Yeah.
This cannot be what everybody told me success was like. This doesn't make sense. So that caused kind of a little bit of an identity crisis around who I started asking God, source, the universe, who am I? Like, who am I here to be? Some of that was probably brought on by postpartum.
Yeah.
Postpartum hormone, right? But I started getting very deep into like spiritual traditions. I went and read my Bible multiple times because I grew up in the church and really started exploring the meaning of life, right? At 24. And as I started asking these questions, synchronicities started to happen. And there was a very interesting experience where I hop on Facebook one day and all of a sudden in the people you may know, one of my old favorite professors who was an older African man was on there. And it was so hilarious to me because I'm like, why are you here? You hate everything social media stands for. And so I immediately messaged him and he said, I said, what are you doing here? And he said, it's so weird. I'm in this school. This other student here recognizes your last name. And all of those conversations that we had, because remember, I shared with you that I remembered my last time here, my last time in this life. I remember being in ancient Egypt as a priestess. I remember everything about it.
Wow.
And I had shared this with him. And he said, I found what you have been looking for and you've got to come and see it. This girl that had created this profile for him had gone to school with my husband in another state. They had been on the track team together, which was weird. He was on social media, which was weird. And he invited me to a ceremony. And of course, I take him up on his offer. We show up at the ceremony. My husband's freaked out because I take him with me. And he's like, okay, what are you taking me to? This is
what was it described as a spiritual ceremony?
It was described as a spiritual it's called a fruit and honey ceremony. I said, we bring fruit. There's going to be honey. Like it can't be that bad. And we wear white, right? So we all arrived there. And as soon as I walked in the door, by the way, this was in West Virginia for a little context, very out of place. As soon as the door opens and I step inside, I had this feeling, and I don't know if you've ever had this feeling, but knowing like in my bones that I was exactly where I was supposed to be in that moment. It felt like everything in my life had culminated to bring me to this spot at this exact moment. And the ceremony commenced. It was very lovely. It literally was fruit and honey. And they shared a little bit about these spiritual traditions, which are rooted in ancient Egypt and present in Africa. This is the root of African spirituality. And they said, okay, this is a mystery school. We have a new initiation class starting. And, if you want to join us, you can. And of course I said yes, not knowing what that meant really. So I joined that initiation, and initiation is a concept that a lot of people don't understand. On one hand, there's an educational component. So you are learning things, but more than anything, initiation is about your becoming. It's about your paradigm, how you see the world, how you be in the world. And it is a very difficult journey because everything that you thought that you knew everything that you thought that you were disintegrates and falls apart. And because of that, most people don't make it through. So I started with 9 people. I was the only person to graduate from that initiation class, and that was pretty normal. Not many people make it through the graduation process. So that initiation was 3 years. And during that time in our initiations, we also do what's called divination. Divination is essentially a process of looking at someone's energy, especially the energy of who they are here to be in this world. And it's essentially like a spiritual diagnostic tool where we can look at and see who this person is here to be. Also, what are some of the problems that are happening in their life, and what is the spiritual root cause? Because in our perspective, everything starts as energy first and then becomes physical. So any problems we experience here have a cause in the spiritual realm.
Mm.
So everything that kept coming up in my divinations was talking about me being here to be a priestess, me being here to be a spiritual teacher, and da 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 da. And in my mind, I thought, yeah, okay, when I'm 50, because I'm still selling pure romance at this time.
Yeah.
Right. I am still very young. And in my mind, you don't become a spiritual teacher until you become an old white man. That was my mind. My mind's it's like, first of all, I'm
I'm just going to pause. This is like, you're here, like you're being called to this like divine, position in life and being able to help people. And you knew this was your purpose. Over here, you're like, I'm selling vibrators and just must have been funny. And then also you're like, well, maybe I can have it all, Like, and then you're a mom. Like it all can come together. Like, did you feel like maybe this all can work, or did you feel like, oh man, I got to make a decision?
I felt like I had to make a decision. Looking back on it from the perspective that I have now, there wasn't actually any issue with pure romance. But in my mind, I was still coming from a religious upbringing, and I had already been working through like a lot of shame around, feminine sexuality.
Right.
And I had a perception that anything around sex is evil.
Well, just to clarify, I didn't mean the even the content of the business. I meant like knowing like, okay, this is my purpose and I need to go here now. Because usually when that's the road, it's going to be really hard to stay like driving 2 trains. I just wanted to clarify that's where I was going, but you can complete that, of course.
Oh no. Like for me, the separation in my mind was that I was not yet ready, because number one, I had so many ideas around the, like being in pure romance. So there was that judgment of myself. Then there was also the judgment of like, in my mind, in order to be a spiritual teacher, you need to be older. And you need to have a certain level of experience and da 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 da. Like,
yeah.
So in my mind, even though I knew that was true, it always felt like something that was going to be way down the road. And it wasn't until, so I'm sick still through this whole process. And I started having some very, very extreme health challenges. Like it got so bad to the point where I would lose like 18 pounds in a month. I couldn't keep food down. I was having severe migraines. And it kept coming up that, all of this is because you are here to be and to walk a certain path. And for me, I'm called in a certain way. I cannot stray off of that path too far, or things don't work out well for me.
Right. Okay.
And so it basically got to a point where I could not ignore my calling anymore. And so I ended up having this dream. So of course my spiritual gifts were starting to pick up at this time. I had a dream of my spiritual teacher a year before I met her. It was a very weird way that we connected, again on Facebook, with no mutual friends. The whole thing was weird. And as I, really like came home and checked in with, okay, is this what I'm doing? Is this what I should the road I should go down? And yes, I had to do it. And so that was when I entered into that initiation, essentially to become what's called an Isengoma, or a Zulu shaman. So I ended up spending more time in that initiation, and all of that, of course, culminated in South Africa. Really, over that 5 years, I was traveling back and forth to Africa, training, ceremonies, yada, yada, yada. It was a 5-year long process of really unbecoming everything that I thought that I was, in order to allow myself to be who I really was born to be.
Yeah.
So that brings us to like 2018.
Can I jump in with a question?
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting about your story too, so many women, the same partner, they've not been with the same husband or partner during these giant transformations. Typically, you have been with this same man. And so what was his perception of all this? I'm just curious. Was he supportive? Was he like, this is great, go babe? Or was he like, I don't know what this is, or what are you doing? Or was there ever a moment between you that there was a question?
There were so many questions. I'll be very transparent. There was about 2 years of our relationship, like the first 2 years of my initiation, that I thought we were not going to make it through.
Yeah.
Because here I was, both of us were raised in the church. And of course I'm, in the Black community specifically, which he grew up in, lots of Baptist church family. Anything outside was just not to be messed with at all. And I was the one who had done lots and lots of research and exploration into lots of spiritual paths, and had come to my own conclusion that really all of these are talking about the same thing. Like at the core, there's so much similarity underneath them. And from my perspective, it was like, we just have different perspectives of things. But for him, that was really, really difficult to witness and be a part of. And he felt me drifting away. And of course, my lifestyle as an initiate is really hard. There's certain things like we would be cleansing. I would cleanse twice a day. I would, spend an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening in meditation. I had to eat certain things. I slept on the floor for 5 years. There's a lot that goes into it. And so we had lots of tension, especially during my initiation. And then it got to a fever pitch. And I won't say that this was an ultimatum, but I told him, I said, listen, you don't have to support me, but if you get in my way, that's going to be the end of our relationship. And so I told him I don't need for you to, be supportive and cheer me on and or even understand it, but just don't stand in my way from my calling, from, what I'm here to do. And after that, he never stood in my way. And of course, honestly, I don't know very many men who could hang with the way that my journey has had to go. Me being gone for months at a time in Africa, right? While he would be at home working, because he was in the union and building up his career. So he couldn't travel like that. And now, of course, we're on the other side of that. Huge support. And he is, after I let go of the idea that he needed to be a certain kind of spiritual in order for us to be together, I honor him for his spiritual path. And we just have very different ways of being, but he gets mine.
Yeah. Well, shout out to him if he's listening, because it takes a special man. Well, and I asked that question, and I try to bring it up, on a lot of interviews. I know a lot of interviews don't even go there, but the partnership is so important. And there's so many women I know who's, myself included, right? That you start this journey with this partner with you and it's amazing, but then you start to change. And then for numerous reasons in different cases with different people, you can't both go together. And so I just think that's so amazing that you did something so intense and different. And you were just called like to this thing so strongly that he was still there with you. And I just, I really wanted to understand that. So I'm going to press fast forward a little bit and to jump to kind of today. What was the turning point then where you said, okay, this is what I'm doing? Like, and then where do you go from there? Do you put up a website? Like, what do you, when you go, you're like, okay, I'm this thing now. How do I turn this into now my life? Like what happened there?
Yeah. So I came home from South Africa, Makhosi. So Makhosi is a title that some of us are given. Depending on the spirits you have, you receive certain titles.
What was your other name? I didn't even know that. What was your other name?
Yeah, so my birth name is Candace.
Candace?
Yes.
I don't know you as a Candace. It's so weird.
You're Makhosi. Yeah. So we receive names and we receive titles depending on our initiations, and it speaks to the spirits that you have, or the energy. We could say it that way. The energy that you come with.
Yep.
And so Makhosi means king or chief, but it can also be translated to a royal shaman. So that is where the birth of the royal shaman, which is my brand, came about. So I get home from South Africa. I kind of like put my virtual shingle up, and I started doing, readings for people essentially. And over time that evolved to where I was attracting a very specific kind of person. I kept attracting leaders, and specifically women, but sometimes I'll attract men into my world. And, that has gone, I could not have made this up. I could not have planned for my path to go this way. But in 2020, I was working with some leaders. Things at that time were particularly challenging. My gift is all around, navigating chaos, crisis, transition periods. That's part of I'm very cool, calm, and collected, no matter how many fires are literally burning around us. And my role is in advising and supporting this next generation of leadership. We always had, even now, there are spiritual advisors for lots of different, kinds of leaders with lots of different backgrounds. So 2020, things really exploded. That was when I shifted my business model from being like, before I was trying to be like the poor spiritualist, because you can't be spiritual and make money. I hate that idea. And I started charging well and really positioning myself as an advisor to leaders and really, supporting them in a deep way, and kind of aligning myself more with like the executive coaches type of thing. And that really allowed my business to take off, because my clients were having the most incredible results. Some of them have been very well-known people, celebrities, very big thought leaders and influencers. And of course, as they talked about me, my influence grew. That led to me being on all of these, major media, CNBC, CBS, ABC. Then of course the doctors happened, and boom, 7-figure a year business. Yeah.
Just so I want to ask you now, because I know this is your jam. I feel like this year, you just alluded to 2020, which I feel like same energy right now. I feel like we're exactly back to that same energy. It's like all this unknown stuff coming, the election's even more crazy this year. The energy is just like crazy wild. Like, how do you help leaders, and what can we do listening right now to maybe a few things that you could tell us that will be really helpful during the coming months, especially, and this big transition that we're going through right now? There's just craziness everywhere. If someone's not going through a business shift right now, they're going through a personal shift. People are dying in their family. Like, just bam, bam. There's just changes everywhere. Divorces. I don't know one person right now who is not having some type of major transition in one category or another. And then look at the meta version of the world. Like, there's like what's going on inside us. It's what's going on around us. And then there's what's going on the planet. What do you even tell somebody when they're trying to lead through, and I bought this.com, leading through the apocalypse, because, it's kind of I think it's going to be a show. I'm not sure what I'm doing. We'll have you on, but it like we are like leading through the apocalypse. Like there's the lifting of the veil, the big shifts, people having revelations, wanting to make change, but not knowing how. Tell us what to do.
Yeah. So we're at this time, and I can just go in and tell you, it's not going to let up really anytime soon.
So buckle up, Buttercup.
But also, this is like I smile and I laugh about it because it is really, really exciting for those of us who have some insight into what's happening, like on the other side of this. All of this is happening mainly because we have the majority of people on this planet have really attached ourselves to ways of being that are out of harmony with how things work on this planet, right? I think we all know what that means. But that also means on individual levels. And so everyone is essentially having a giant initiation.
Yeah.
You're having it in personal life, or you are having it, or we're seeing like entire countries having it, or entire chunks of the world are having an initiation. And like I said, an initiation is a process through which everything that does not serve has to come up, has to be visible, and has to be let go of, has to be shed. And sometimes that looks like fire, right? Like burning things down. Sometimes it looks like things just not working out the way that they would have worked 3 years ago or 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But the most important thing that we can do at this time is to understand that what's necessary is for us to embody a different way of being. And the energy that we need to embody is the feminine energy. And this is going to be for men too, not just women. The yin or the feminine ways of being are what's necessary in order to create harmony. And that applies in your life on an individual level. That applies in your family. That applies in your community, in your companies, in the industries, and beyond. So whenever we talk, I'm very well known for, yes, I'm a very spiritual person, but my jam is translating energetic concepts like the traits of the feminine, and then applying those into real life. Practical, how do we do that?
Can you give us an example? Something we could do?
Yeah. So one of the things that I find, especially with type A women, we love to plan. We love a plan. We love to organize some things, right? And we have very rigid ways of going about that. So one way that you can do that, and is going to be necessary for this next season, is getting used to being more intuitive or spirit-led and creating structures in your schedule, in your business, in your life that allow space. So the times of just do all the things, in order to get out of the hole that you're in, you are going to dig deeper holes. the only way that you are going to be able to transition out of this time is to intentionally create space and flexibility in your life, on your schedule. I call this scaffolding. So where most of us create walls and then we just go about setting bricks in our life to build what we want. Now we need to take the approach of a scaffold. A scaffold has some, some solid structures to it. And I say that these are your values. These are what you stand for. These are, the things that you want to make sure that you get done in the world, and that most of what you create is space, and that you learn how to get in touch with your creative energy, because things are going to be happening and changing so fast. Most of your, if you're planning a year out and you don't have some scaffolding in that, a year from now, you're not going to build anything. Nothing that you want to build will happen. So build it with built-in space and flexibility, knowing that a lot is going to shift and you're not going to see it coming. You're not going to be able to, everything is.
So you're talking about is like leaving room, leave room for the unexpected, right? Leave room for magic, leave room for insights, leave room to receive the ideas, because we may not have them at that time, right? Also, the world could be totally different.
And
it's funny because years ago, remember everyone would ask you, what's your 5-year plan? We don't know where anything's going to be in 5 years now. And you see even the corporations that get stuck, even when you look at this at a bigger business level, the ones that plan too much, too far ahead are often the ones that get stuck later. So it's something to think about. And we forget how agile we can be. And here we are over planning when we have this gift of this agility. I just want to point that out.
Mm-hmm. The other piece as well, the feminine energy, as feminine bodied beings in this life, we are designed to receive. We do it really without conscious effort. So the other thing to be really, really mindful of is almost thinking about like your entire identity like a stomach.
Okay.
Think of your identity like a stomach, and that all of the input that you are surrounded by is being digested and becoming you. So being very, very mindful around what you consume. And I don't mean this just food.
Right.
We can talk about food, but what you are allowing to just permeate your mind constantly. Now, I'm not saying don't be plugged into the important things that are going on in the world, like with the election right now is a big topic. But don't be doom scrolling.
Yeah. Oh, we're sucked
election nonsense.
And it sucks you in, even if you don't want to. You just somehow find yourself reading stuff, and it's crazy.
Yes. And so the things that you are reading are becoming you, whether you are aware of it or not, right? You might think you're so different than the people who you're listening to, but you spend enough time with them, even virtually, right? Even just watching them talk. That is becoming you. That is becoming what you believe about yourself, what you believe about the world, what you see as possible. So being extremely mindful of that. The other things as well are just very like practical, incorporate into your physical care. And I like regular breathing. So most of us are going throughout the day, completely forgetting to breathe. So setting the intention, setting alarms if you need to, setting certain points throughout the day where you just stop for a few minutes and breathe to regulate your nervous system. I also am a fan of a good sweat and a good ice or cold shower, right? So using some of these tools that are really easy to access, it's really easy to, get your heart rate up if you can, get sweating a little bit, go take a cold shower to cleanse yourself, really like releasing the toxins, trying not to hold on to anything. That's on a physical level, but it also affects you energetically. It affects your emotions. It affects all these different aspects of you. And those are really important. But the biggest thing that I can say is during this time period, because in initiation is not school in the way we think of school. Our interaction with school comes from a masculine paradigm where we have a curriculum. It's step by step. It's linear. You need to do this, then you need to do that. We're all in Mother Nature's classroom right now. And she teaches in a very different way. She's going to immerse you in experiences that present obstacles. And the obstacles that you are experiencing right now, if you experience them as obstacles, there's something inside of them that needs to be, we call this transmuted or transformed, change. And so certain beliefs that you might have, especially around who you think you have to be or who you think the other people should be or how you think the world should be, all of those ideas are going to be challenged right now. Our idea of motherhood, what makes a good mother, our idea of what it means to be a good woman, what it means to be a good leader, all of those things are being challenged right now. And so looking for the opportunities in these obstacles to step into a more expanded version of yourself in this time period is like, that's really the work that's going to get you through this time and not just get you through this time. Like, let me not sound so doom and gloom. Part of this is happening because this is our moment to rise. This is our moment. Like, women are taking leadership. That's the only way that this shit show is going to get better is for more of us to be in our feminine leadership, not holding on to being women in masculine leadership, but really embracing our empathy, our compassion, holistic thinking, creativity and innovation, presence, intuition, like all of these things that are the feminine gifts. That's what's necessary for the world. And that's why we're being called to reclaim our feminine gifts and really be that in the world. And that's going to, there's lots of fun things that are going to come. Like the feminization of wealth is happening. That's happening. And, the way that we do business, even what's valued in business is going to change because the men, our masculine ways are like making some of the masculine aspects of ourselves obsolete, right? We put a lot of value on logic and information and thinking, and now we have AI. So what becomes more important when you have endless information and logic at your hands? Emotional skills.
Yeah.
Connection.
Yeah.
Community. Love. Peace.
Human
harmony,
creativity. Everything really human, right? Which, if you think about it, a lot of those qualities are feminine, what makes us human and cannot be duplicated. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. It's a few things you mentioned. I just want to echo. And one is, I find, the digital detoxes, like I'll do things like Instagram is not on my phone. I put Instagram on my phone when I need it. I'll do it for like an hour for business. And then I literally take the app off. So I'm not like unconsciously even checking it. I allow more space now for how my body's feeling and to honor that, I'm finding like lifting heavy right now. My body right now needs a lot of movement more than it did before. Like I need to move this energy through me. I love what you talked about, like who you're surrounding yourself with. It's more important than ever, I think, because also you have people on way different timelines right now. Like, You may be in a group of people, you're like, whoa, that's just like they're going a whole different direction. And wow, we're over here and we're thinking this way. And we're creating a new world and all these new ideas. And like, those are the people you want to be around. Right. So if you could share a bit with also everyone about what you experience in the meetings of the trust, and, you could be a part of many different groups, especially at the level that you're at right now with what you do and why you like to join us.
Yeah. So I've been a member of the trust now going on 2 years. And, for me, having spaces that are aligned with the values of who you are becoming is incredibly important. We tend to think, oh, I can only surround myself with people who think exactly like me. But the trust gives me so many different perspectives, so many different walks of life, but we all have a similar foundation and similar vision, right? Number one, we've all done something that is like unicorn. We're all kind of like unicorns, and maybe we have different paths, different walks of life, even different industries, right? Like we're in so much variety is in the room, but all of us want to see each other succeed and want to share. I've gotten so many great insights from women in other industries and, women who are older than me. I love that. Like women who have been in business for 25 years, right? I'm like 6 years in. And so having access to women who just have that similar expanded vision. It's like being in a room of expanders.
I love that. And we love having you with us, and you always have incredible insights. Like Makhosi will be quiet for a while. That's what I love about Makhosi. She'll be quiet for a while. She doesn't blab on. She's very present, and then she'll like say something and everyone's just like, wow. You'll kind of nail it. And it's great because you give just such a different perspective and insight to things that I think we're all going through. So we love having you too. So what's the reward in all this for you?
I love that I get to be a part of this unfolding of humanity, this rising of the feminine, and I get to play a part in it. And I feel so blessed. Of course, I have my own stuff that I've gone through around the fact that I have a very, very different perspective, a very different way of walking in the world, but that those experiences I can share with other women. They don't have to take everything and don't have to go down the path that I did. Please don't, because it was very challenging.
It may kill you.
Right. You might not make it through, but even just taking some of the smallest things and seeing how women are able to be their authentic selves, create wealth beyond what they imagined possible, find fulfillment in their purpose and their calling. I can't imagine anything like more valuable than getting to support women really being the fullest expression of who they were born to be. It's just like the most satisfying thing.
Especially at this time in history. I think it's really important and critical. So thank you for doing what you do, and share with everyone, where should they come learn more? Where can they follow you, and what's going on in your world?
Yeah, these days I'm on Instagram, and I have blockers on my Instagram so that you can't ding me all the time, right? But I'm on Instagram at The Royal Shaman. My website is theroyalshaman.com. You can also find my podcast, Euphoric Evolution. And I'm on YouTube as well. I'm the Royal Shaman basically everywhere. And I've got lots of content that I've created over the years on lots of, topics from manifestation to wealth to business and leadership. And I'm always happy to expand and see more diversity and different perspectives in my world.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Makhosi. And I really enjoyed just getting to know you even better on this interview. And I have more questions for you. Maybe we may have to do a part 2 at some point.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
hun.
It's a lot, but we made it.
Take care. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Bye. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. Subscribe now to the Reward Podcast to be sure to not miss an episode. And don't forget to visit jointhetrust.org to learn more about our modern community for forward-thinking 7- and 8-figure women entrepreneurs. You can learn more, apply to join us, or refer another woman you know who is over the $1 million mark and is ready for a different type of women's network. We have events coming up both live and online that are truly creating new possibilities for female leaders. That's jointhetrust.org. See you there.